to another installation of Coffee Talk with the USA IDA. I'm Colleen Quigley-Carey, and I'm so happy to see you all again. Today, I'm super excited to have my friend Kelly Fitzpatrick from the Fitzpatrick Academy of New York here with us. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Colleen. I'm so excited to be on.
We're so happy to have you. So everyone, tonight's episode is a good one. Get your coffee ready, get your listening ears ready. And this coffee talk we would recommend not just for parents of dancers, but I really do also think this is going to be extremely helpful for pre-open and open dancers and even bund grad dancers who are working their way up to those levels. Today's discussion is all about how to practice as a pre-open, open dancer to reach your goals. All right, so obviously, first and foremost, your own teacher is going to be the wealth of knowledge for ideas of how to best practice outside of class. That being said, Kelly is on here today because as a teacher, a young female teacher who owns her own school, she's had great success with her dancers. But if you don't know this, Kelly comes from a family of 3 dancers, Kelly, Eileen, and Maureen. And between the 3 of them, these are just a sample of how well they've done in the world of Irish dancing. There are 4 regional titles between them. There are 7 top 5 nationals titles between them. There are 14 top 10 national spots between the 3. There are 13 times recall medalist situations here from the All Irelands and 13 times recall or medal from the World Championships. So, first of all, huge congratulations to you and your sisters.
Thank you.
Huge congratulations to your parents for supporting the 3 of you.
100%.
So when I'm saying, we have someone here today who really has a good idea of what best to focus on when you're practicing outside of class, when you want to reach that top level of dance, we've got a great person here today. So Kelly, again, thank you so much, and we're going to dive right in. So what would you say your top 5 things to focus on in practice outside of class would be for a pre-open, open dancer?
All right. So like you said, your teacher's opinion is number 1.
Right.
Whatever they say, if any of this contradicts that, always listen to your teacher first. But what I would suggest is outside of class, you want to work on your fitness, your endurance. You want to work on your flexibility. You want to, of course, break down your steps. You can drill them. You can do them in pieces. You break them down. Then you put them together. And you work hard on them all together as one unit. And lastly, I would say on your off time or your own personal practice time, one of the most important things to work on is mental strength and working on your own self-confidence, because it starts here. Nothing in the feet is going to work unless you believe it up here first. And here.
Okay, so just that much alone is excellent advice, but we're going to delve in even deeper. So, the first thing you spoke about was fitness, strength, flexibility. So in that regard, what I always would say to my dancers is it does not matter how beautifully you dance one step or how gorgeous you are on the step part of your set piece. If you can't get through the whole thing with energy, forget it. So, the world is opening up right now. We are getting back into actual physical classes, and there are still dancers dancing on Zoom, and this all applies to you as well. But, let's say on average, if you're in, an opens, pre-opens dancers, you're generally getting to class at least 2, I'd say, to 4 times a week. Some people it's more. Sometimes you throw in a private lesson here or there. So, if you're in class a lot and you are doing a ton of stamina and fitness in class, what would be something that you would say, okay, you're already doing a lot of fitness, but you still want to have that edge? What could be some fitness level things that they could do outside that maybe just don't take up a ton of time?
Well, one thing I did as a dancer, and I try to impress upon my own dancers, is if you are being told something constantly by your teacher, or even more so from outside perspectives or other teachers or whatever, if you if you are getting the same feedback over and over and over again, those are the details that you want to take home with you and put the most focus on. You're going to drill, drill, drill until it gets better.
I love that. So like, if you, let's say you're in dance class, you're doing a dance class now 4 days a week, you're getting ready for US Opens, you're getting ready for the provincial, you're getting ready for Worlds, you're doing a lot of fitness. Let's say, you wake up, and you're one of those kids, you're up at like 6 a.m., you get out of bed, you do like your crunches, you do your planks, right? These are things that I think sometimes dancers who are newer to pre-open or opens don't realize how hard the top dancers are working. And that's not to say that dancers who are not, going to Worlds are not working hard at all. We're not saying that. But it is really intense how hard some of these dancers train. And you need to know that. Like, you have to know that you may think you're doing enough, but the kids who are going to be top 5 at Worlds are really going for it. So little things like that, saying, I'm going to do 50 to 100 crunches, 4 days a week or every morning, or I'm going to hold my plank, for 2 minutes when I get out of bed and 2 minutes before I go to bed. I'm going to jump rope, every other day for 10 minutes, or I'm going to jump rope every day for 5 minutes. Small little things like that, I know, are easy to fit in your schedule. No matter how busy you are, you can find increments of 5 minutes across the day, and you put 4 sets of 5-minute things you want to do, and all of a sudden you've got 20 minutes of an exercise routine that you've then put together, which I think is fantastic. So there's always ways to figure that out as a dancer. And remember, that is really important. The cross-training side of this is really, really important. And I know also, everything we've been doing in the patch program circles around this as well. So just remember, we'll circle back to Kelly, and we'll definitely say that fitness and stamina is super important. Okay, excellent. So then the next was the technical exercises. Like, I guess for that, I would say probably like turnout, arches, pointing, like nice extension, height off the floor, right? What would you say, like, how should a dancer be trying to do the exercises they do in class at home, outside of the class? Like, what's your view on what's enough, what's too much, what's not enough?
Well, you have to find that happy balance between improvement and burnout, right? And
oh my God, Kelly, I love that. Let's put that on a t-shirt. You have to find the balance between improvement and burnout. That is epic. That's epic, Kelly. That's so important to hear.
And I think I can speak for most of my colleagues when we all know we see that dancer trying to get that jump or that piece of a set piece, and they're doing it 100 times, and it actually gets worse, right? Because it's just not coming. Mm-hmm. And I think when you feel that, that's the time to walk away. That's the time to walk away. You go to bed, you take your shower, you go to bed, and you get up the next day with a fresh pair of feet and a fresh pair of a mindset, and you move on, and your next day is 100% better. So that is definitely something to keep in mind as you're working on your dancing.
I think that's such a great set of information, because I think, listen, there's a very common phrase in Irish dancing, like, don't practice until you get it right. Practice till you never get it wrong, which over the long term is accurate. But during one practice session, outside of class, right, your teacher may really want you in class to be working on something over and over to get it, and they'll be offering corrections through the whole time trying to make it better, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking, this is all outside of class. You get the new dance step, you can't do the one back, you can't do the one heel movement. There's like one thing that's just driving you nuts. Or you're doing a turnout exercise and the left foot is straight in the back. Like, you just know it and you're just not able to do it. So instead of sitting there in your basement for 45 minutes doing something wrong over and over and knowing that and being frustrated by it, take a step back, move on to something else, or like Kelly said, just call it a night right then and there, and then get there tomorrow. I think that's really important. I think sometimes the stress of trying to get really great really quickly can make people overlook the really small technical things and almost overwork the wrong things,
Oh,
you
totally.
know? And I think the dancers are aware, and the parents of the dancer are aware of those things that they need to work on. But sometimes you get so caught up in one specific thing that you don't look at the big picture. So I think that's like the best advice is like take a second, look at what's really important overall in your dancing, and like we were talking about, in your mental tenacity, in your mental health awareness, like what is going to make you feel really good about your dancing, what's going to torture you about your dancing. Try to focus on the positive instead of that one time where you didn't twist your ankle, or that one time you keep missing that click. You know, you can always go back and work on it tomorrow.
It's so true. And our dancers are so determined. And I think in turn, they can be so hard on themselves. And it's not fair to you. Like you want to treat your friends this way and be so hard on your friends. Why would you be hard on yourself that way? So you take that second, you readjust, and then I'm telling you, your dancing is 1,000 times better the next time you approach it, because it's all about your mindset. And to go back to breaking down a movement or doing any kind of step, I know we're going to get down to breaking down dancing.
Yeah, keep going. This is great.
If you want, like, if you're taking home a breakdown from your teacher or a drill and you're still missing that piece, break it down more. Just do a little bit, just the one little part. If it's that back batter, you run back batters until the cows come home, and then you throw it back in the piece. Then you throw it back in the step. It's all about building.
I think that's great advice. And right now, I'm going to encourage any parents who started to watch this video, pause it. Go get your dancers. Go and rewind this video from the start and sit down with them and have them watch this. This stuff is really important. And I have to say, something I'm loving is hearing how Kelly is really bringing it to them in a positive way about not being so hard on yourself while you're doing your practice. You know, it's really important that everybody take that second. Remember why you love Irish dancing, right? It should be driven by love and excitement. It should not be driven by fear of like, if I don't do this, I won't get this, I won't get this, I won't get this. That's very hard to deprogram from our minds, and that's always going to be there, especially with very competitive dancers. We understand that. But dance comes across best when it comes from a positive, hopeful place where you really believe in yourself. And I think that that's something across the board, all of the teachers in our branch really try to bring out of our dancers is don't dance from fear that if I don't do this, I won't do. Think of it the other way. If I do this, I will accomplish blank goal, or I will feel good about my dancing and my performance. And I think that's really, really important for everyone to hear. Listen, you know, not everyone has a great day. You know, as teachers, we can be very hard on our dancers, and we come from a place of love. But when you're practicing yourself, you gotta love doing this. Like getting those shoes on, going down to the basement, or like I used to practice in a hallway in an apartment building, like wherever you're practicing, you need to have fun. Otherwise, you're just gonna be like, why am I doing this? And that should never be the case, especially when you've worked so hard to get to pre-open and opens, and especially for our opens dancers, you know, who are going overseas or going, you know, to really large competitions. Like this stuff is super important. You know?
So true, Colleen. It has to start here. If all of your goals have an end goal of trophies, it's going to make your whole process and your whole journey empty. It's not going to be that thing that fills your day and fills your heart and your soul, you know, and without sounding too cheesy, but that's what it does for us. We love to dance, and it makes us feel so good, and it lifts us up.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's really important is I had my mind blown a few years ago. I was watching, it was on PBS. I love PBS shows, everybody. It was a very short documentary about students training at the American School of Ballet. And there was a young dancer who said, you know, I'm in this program, it's super competitive, but right now all I can focus on is doing the best I can at my dancing. Of course, I would love to be a professional dancer, but I need to get stronger. My body has to get stronger in order to do these moves, to keep learning the next move and learning the next move. And it was like mind blown, because we so often are so focused on the next competition. We don't always look at the broader picture of what your entire dance career can be. And if you keep thinking about like, all right, well, I just mastered, an entrechats, what I call them, some people call them double jumps, some people call them butterflies. I just mastered that. That's a huge accomplishment. And you need to be strong and you need to have a certain set of technique, things like that to get just these small moves. But it's so normal for our dancers to do so well and to keep adding on of what they're learning that we sometimes don't stop and say, wow, you've done that, way to go. We're trying, I think, as teachers, especially after the last year, the craziness of the pandemic, to stop and really appreciate those moments for the dancers. But I think it's very helpful to think about it's a large puzzle, right? And every accomplishment is another piece in that puzzle. And what the end picture of that puzzle is going to be, you never know. But if all you're looking at is like one competition or one trophy, you're not going to get the full experience of completing your journey and completing your puzzle. I think that's like something I know as a dancer, I had wonderful teachers, but I would have loved to have heard that. Because I was so afraid at each competition, well, if I don't do this and I'm not going to be able to go to this competition, if I don't go there, people are going to say she didn't do this, she didn't do that. And we think of that chatter constantly in our heads, and that's not important.
No, it's not important. The most important thing, I think, is your relationship between you and your teacher, because your teacher knows what you're putting in, what your goals are. They know every ounce of your dancing. That judge does not know you from a hole in the wall. And if you come off that stage and your teacher is pleased with what you did that day, that is a huge goal that has been accomplished. And eventually, if you don't impress the judge that day, if you continue to do that with your teacher, you're going to impress that judge. And
exactly.
It's a combination of that plus patience, really, and just letting the process happen.
Yeah, I think that's really important for people to hear as well. Rome was not built in a day. Not every single dancer, and we spoke about this right before we started taping, not every dancer is going to be Michael Flatley. Like, that's just not how every person is built. And it doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to become a brilliant Irish step dancer. It's just that maybe that's not going to be what your end journey is in Irish dancing. Maybe you'll become a dance teacher like us. Maybe you will become a choreographer. Maybe you'll do another form of dance. Maybe you'll tour the world in your own dance show. You don't really know. But to base everything on like one day, one competition is so much. Or, like just this, if I can't get this one step, I'm not anything. Or if I think that's important for people to start purging out of their heads and their hearts, because that's not what this is about. And the other thing too is that, like, on top of everything else, we haven't even spoken about the other opportunities in dance, like Kaylee dancing, just because right now that's not something that we're able to do. But like, don't forget, like, you can be an amazing solo dancer, but you can also have incredible success being part of like a very large team, which is also epic as well. So like, there's a lot of different things that you can do here as you become better and better and better as a dancer. So love it. Love it. Now this is a burning question. How often, how long should you be practicing outside of class if you want to be at the top level? Like, what's your thought on that? That's a loaded question, Kelly.
Yes, and well, I think every dancer is different. Every body is different. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. So it really comes down to finding the recipe that works best for you. Like you said, some dancers are up 5:30, 6 a.m. and they're doing everything they possibly can to do their crunches and their fitness and all their steps and all their routines over and over and over again. And maybe they're still struggling, where some dancers don't do that and they're winning the fesh that weekend. So it's really about looking deep within and figuring out what system works best for you. We have a lot of dancers who are involved in other activities.
Mm-hmm.
And that factors into their schedule and will have an effect on their preparedness as well. So I would suggest talking to your teacher. I have a lot of dancers who come to me and say, I have a crazy 3 weeks coming up, even with the pandemic. And I say, okay, let's sit down and find the window of time that will work for you. And we're going to figure out what you're going to do with that time. I think all of the teachers in IDA are more than accessible.
I would totally agree.
Yeah.
Kelly, we're going to have another t-shirt. Find the recipe that works for you. That is such great advice. This is not a one-size-fits-all situation, just like you were saying. For some dancers, they're like, well, I practiced. I did my jig 3 times almost in a row. And I did my reel 15 times. And I did this, but I still didn't get a good result at the finish. Well, that's great. It's great that you're able to get through your dances. Great. That's awesome. We tick the box of our fitness and stamina. But, were you in time? Were you lifting your legs? Were you kicking your bottom? Were you doing all those things that if you're just racing through doing your dances all the time, maybe that's not for you, right? And vice versa, there might be a dancer who's breaking things down nonstop, so their individual piece of a step is perfect, fantastic, and they're doing their exercises, their stretches, their turnout exercises, their arches, the on the toes, the whole thing, but yet their stamina is not great because they don't really love doing that part of it. So I think you need to pick and choose, and just like you said, look at your schedule. We tend to have very goal-oriented students who come to us who focus on Irish dancing. Most dancers tend to be very good in their academics and in their Irish dancing because they know how to use their time very wisely, or they know how to stick to a schedule. So a lot of times too, I think that like a weekly practice schedule is super helpful. But again, give yourself some grace as a dancer. Like if you say, okay, on Wednesday, I know I have dance class from 6 to 8. I know I have a test the next day, and then you pencil yourself in for like an hour of like hardcore stamina practice or fitness and a set. That's probably not going to work, right? Like, look at your daily schedule, what you have for the week, and give yourself some realistic goals. And if, listen, let's say you have a practice on one day and you're not up to it. You're really sore. You're tired. You have an extra homework assignment or dance class, was really intense that day or something. Give yourself a little break. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm just going to do some really good stretching for 10 minutes and I'm going to call it a day. Like that's going to be enough for me. And then tomorrow I'll focus on my set piece or whatever it was that you were working on. And I think that's very, very important. Now, something that I went to before at the intro was like how wonderful and supportive, your parents have been through everything, especially having and supporting 3 dancing daughters. Looking at what parents can do, what are some like helpful, encouraging things that you would say would be good for a parent to say or do for their kids who are practicing or, maybe reticent to practice? And what would you say are some things that might not be as helpful from a parent's perspective when it comes to practice?
So success in Irish dance is a 3-way team. Your teacher, the dancer, and the parent. And
another t-shirt. This is another t-shirt, by the way. So we're getting all the t-shirts. Okay. Please continue.
Well, thank you. I'm going to start my own company now.
Totally.
Or at the very least, an IG account.
Yes, totally.
But anyways, parents have a huge role in their dancers' success.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, it's all about balance and a fine line. And there's a fine line between them playing that role and impeding on that success. So they want to step in when needed. They want to offer support and guidance and be there in any way, shape, or form they can for their dancers. And then they should let their teacher take the reins when it's their turn to discuss the technical work that's done in dancing. And I think that partnership between teachers and parents are so incredible. I've seen it happen in my school and with other teachers and parents where they're like, all right, I'm reading your mind right now during your competition. You take over now. Okay, I'm going to take over now. And then obviously the dancer takes over when they're on the floor, and it's an incredible team.
I think that's such great advice. And then another thing I would say, just from a mom's perspective, is that I think a lot of times all your children really want to hear from you is, I love you and I'm proud of you. And I would definitely impart that to dance parents across the board. Your dancer may be giving you all sorts of attitude the day of a fesh, because a lot of times they're very nervous and they can't take that feeling out on their classmates, their fellow competitors, their dance teacher, or anyone else. And unfortunately, you sometimes become that person that they take that out on. And listen, it's very hard. I'm not I'm not trying to say anything at all about, you know, how everyone reacts to that. And as a parent, especially when you're spending the time and the money, it can be very difficult to hear that from your child or just get that attitude. That being said, a lot of times, you know, when kids come off, the first person they look to is their mom or their dad who's there with them. And, you know, even if it's their worst day, just saying at some point of the day, like, I am really proud of you. I love you. You maybe today wasn't your best day. That's okay. Tomorrow is another day. You'll go all Scarlett O'Hara on them, like, tomorrow's another day. You know what I mean? And that's really important. So I always want to say that, because I think that in the heat of the moment, you know, we all, like, I mean, so, trust me, my mom was the best. She passed away 5 years ago. She's the best. I am a very nice person. I was awful to my mom on the day I danced. And I always said that to her, like, before, I'm so sorry. Like, I know I'm not being nice and I'm not me doing it on purpose. There's no one else I can take out, you know, the nerves on. And I would literally say that to her and she would just be like, Colleen, but she was great. And I think that that's really, 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 really important to say to all the parents, is that, like, I don't think your kids mean it anytime. And also for the kids watching this, always thank your mom and dad for taking you to the fesh, for dance class, for the costume. Don't ever forget how much those simple thank yous mean to them, because they are just as invested in this, if not, you know, and sometimes more than the kids are. It's really, really important, everybody.
I'm glad you say that, Colleen, because the way your mom got treatment on fesh day, my mom got that times 3. So she really is a saint.
but you know, the thing that the payoff is they see the tears, they see the struggle, they know it. Parents are amazing. We love you, moms and dads. We love you all, or whoever is bringing the dancer to dance class. You know, sometimes it's not the mom and dad, maybe it's a grandma or an aunt or an uncle. So thank you all. This coffee's for you. It takes a lot, and it takes a village to make a champion dancer. It really does, because this is training at a very, very high level.
And to hop off of all of your comments there, Colleen, I'm sure you've heard this over the years as well as the IDA teachers. We have a lot of parents that come up to us and they say, oh, so-and-so is so nervous. They just don't want to disappoint you. And I would like to flip it back to the parents and say, that's probably how they feel with mom and dad. They don't want to disappoint mom and dad either. So, you know, keep that in mind and try to stress to your dancer that, like you said, you love them no matter what. A trophy's a trophy. They're still the incredible people that you're bringing up. And it's only Irish dance. And if it doesn't work out on that day, you know what? You wake up the next day and you set goals to reach those dreams in the future. That's the cool thing about Irish dance. There's always something next.
That's right. And I think that's really important. There's always something next on the horizon. And I know that we've lost a little bit of sight of that in the last year. And all of us at USIDA, the parents, the teachers, the dance, we've been constantly trying to think of new initiatives to engage everyone as we come back and as we start up the competition again. Because although we feel like, as a dancer and dance teachers, a lot of times I think we feel judged by what our results are. There's a lot more to Irish dancing and Irish culture than just constant competition. And that's really important for everyone to realize. So just always keep your eye not just on the prize, but on the entire experience. Now, something that you just said made me think of something else. So you were talking about goals, right? Now, goals are, to me, like a constant fluctuating thing, right? And you may have a dancer whose goal is to be a world champion, and that is a lofty goal and a great goal, and that's that. But we do have some dancers who, you know, might be in Bungrad C right now or pre-open right now, and like all they want to do, they just want to get to opens. They want to be an open, like that's all they can see in their head. So like, let's say that's like my dream. I'm working so hard and I get it. I get my first in the NCH and I'm up into opens and I'm so excited. And I'm like, okay, now I'm here. What would be your advice to like reset what a next goal could be? Or if, a dancer is just kind of there, like, well, I hit my goal now, so I don't know what else I can do or what else I should do. What would your advice be to that type of dancer?
Well, yeah, once you hit that end goal, that end game goal, right? Dancers can become very complacent. They realize, okay, this is it. And after a while, I've seen dancers become disinterested in dancing, and then, they kind of fade away. And if you truly love dancing and you want to stick with it, you don't want to be a victim of that. So move the goalpost, set new goals. You say, okay, get a little hungry, like,
Yeah.
you go to dinner and you're hungry and you have a salad and you feel better, but now you're like, ooh, I want pasta, like, oh, well, now the chicken's coming,
Well, then it's like, the sparkler with the dessert, and you're like, that's really, I thought I wanted the steak, and I have it. Steak's great, but that's what I want. I want that super ultimate sparkly dessert, right?
Oh, yeah,
like,
those are so cool.
First of all, they are delicious. They are delicious. But also, like, there are more things past the one big thing you think that's all you want, and then all of a sudden you see it. And I think the other thing too is that, like, a lot of dancers, like, they box themselves in. Like, as teachers, we do not box in our dancers into what we think they can and cannot do. If we did that, first of all, we'd have no business. Second of all, we would be overlooking dancers that are capable of so much. It's incredible what, just like you said, that three-way system between the dancer and the teacher and the parent, what that three-way system can accomplish when executed with love, with belief in oneself, with the appropriate goals. Sorry, there's some police driving by. We're here in Jersey, people. No, I'm kidding. Everything's good. It's incredible what you can do when you work as a real team. And there are dancers who I know I've had who've walked in the door and who are instantly, they point their toe and they are destined for the world stage. And then there are the dancers who take a little bit longer to adapt to Irish dancing. And sometimes you're like, okay, this dancer needs to spend a little more time in this level, or it might take them a little longer. But then all of a sudden they start working, because they know and they believe that they can do something. And then you see the dancer who came in with the beautiful pointy toe, who you thought was going to, go for the gold, and they're just like, and they're happy to see somebody, come up, and they don't mind someone beating them, which is okay. Like, you don't always have to be, the first place kid. But I think that's so important, is like, never give up, never put yourself in a box, never think like, well, I'm just not that caliber, I'm just not able to do it. Listen.
And another thing to remember is, you reach that goal, keep going to class, add on another class. If you make it to open, maybe start setting a goal that, I know trophies aren't everything, but maybe start setting a goal where you're consistently placing an open. Mm-hmm. And then from there, it's, oh, well, my hornpipe is my weaker dance. Maybe I'm going to set goals to start medaling in that. And it's those little goals that turn out to be bigger goals. And before you know it, you're setting goals for the world championships. So never think that when you reach your ultimate goal, that's the ultimate goal. You can always move the goalpost and push yourself further.
Absolutely. And listen, if you do go and you do get that globe and you're winning that world, you can still win more. You can try to win more with like a perfect score. Absolutely. Even when you're at the top level, there are different ways to keep going and going. I love what you said though about keep going to class. I think sometimes that's something that is overlooked. I think that when you do have a really great practice routine in place, I have seen especially chant dancers be like, well, it's okay if I miss the class. It's okay. I'm still practicing at home. And that's great. It's great that you're practicing at home. But you as a dancer are not a fully rounded Irish dance teacher expert. And it doesn't mean that you can't be. And I'm not saying that in any type of a way that like you don't know what you're talking about. That's not what I'm saying. We as dance teachers have to go through like rigorous training and testing. When I say rigorous, I mean rigorous training and testing to get our credentials as registered teachers and adjudicators. So when we really say we know something about dancing, like We know it, and we're not perfect. And sometimes maybe there's a different approach to something, and that's okay. But the attending class and having that FaceTime with your teachers, and sometimes it's like you'll be in a large class and you won't get like the one-on-one interaction in one class on 1 week. It does not mean that we as teachers are not caring or looking at what you're doing. It's just that at that class, we need everyone in the room to be working on one thing all together. And that, I think, too, gets lost in translation sometimes. I think it's very important for people to know is that not at every single class are you going to get like the full book of every single thing you need to work on. Some classes are like a large stamina class and you're just drilling and drilling and drilling. And then there's the other classes where you're taking the time to break down the steps. And then, you know, always if your teacher offers privates or semi-privates, those can be extremely helpful. They're also not necessarily always, you know, available to every dancer and every dance family, and that's okay as well. Like your dance teacher will always help you with things you need to work on. I mean, doing simple things, Kelly, like bringing, you know, I talked to the Thorn girls about, you know, what they did with their dancers, and those kids have like a practice notebook. Could not recommend that highly enough. Just get like a good old like spiral bound notebook, drop it in your bag with a pen. Please note this is a Dunkin' Donuts pen, everybody. I drink a lot of coffee. With your pen or pencil, and like literally at every class after you do your dance, if your teacher is even just shouting out a correction, like back foot out on the second step, left foot, like go and just write it down. Like just write it down, and then when you go home, you can go through and be like, oh, that second step, yeah, got it. Just one other thing so quickly I want to jump in with, because you were saying like my hornpipe isn't as strong. So one thing, this is really important for dancers to hear. There are always dancers like, oh, I'm such a slip jig dancer, or I'm just real hornpipes are not my thing. Okay, so this is what I'm going to tell y'all, okay? First of all, if you slow a hornpipe down all the way down, guess what? It turns into a jig, literally. Those 76 sets and 74 and 73 sets, those are hornpipe sets, right? But they are actually now at a jig tempo. So jig and hornpipe, although different speeds, are extremely close in nature. So if you think I'm such a jig dancer, I'm such a hornpipe dancer, no. No, you're good at both of them. And you have to start thinking that way, because I think that really holds people back all the time. Totally. Another thing is when it comes to soft shoe, yes, there is a clear difference between a reel and a slip jig. That being said, if you feel like, hold on, what, Kiva? Sure. Sorry, she's asking if she can eat a Girl Scout cookie. If you are like, I'm not great at slip jig, I need to be fast, I need to be a real dancer, take your reel one day and slow your music down with one of the apps that lets you slow music down. They're very easy to find. And do your reel to a very slow reel. And guess what? You're now a slip jig dancer. There's ways to approach all that. And I think it's important for dancers to know that the dances, even though they have their own set of ideas around them of what they should look like or what they should be, like you're capable of doing all of them. You're capable of doing all of them. There's nothing you cannot do. Do not put an excuse in your head that, oh, I'm just a hornpipe dancer, I'm not a jig, or I'm not a slip jig, I'm not a real. No, you can do all of it. And we believe in you. Like, number one, that you can do it. So when you're at home and practicing, get that out of your head. You can do it all. You are capable of anything.
Let's hop back. I don't want to go too far back because I loved everything that you said. But when you mentioned how, some dancers, especially senior open dancers who feel like, oh, well, I've been blessed with all this knowledge from my teacher over the years. I know the 4 components of dance for 5 and I can skip class tonight. Remember, Irish dance is always evolving and always changing. And do you know who's constantly studying it? Your teacher. Your teacher knows dancing from when they were very young to now, and it's changed immensely. And you as a dancer may not always be doing that because you're focused on yourself. And that knowledge and that education is so invaluable, and that's why it's just as important. So but I loved everything you said there. It was just
Kelly, that is so true. That is really true. And I think that's important for everyone to say is that, like, if you're able to get to your classes, those are everything. Practice outside of class to become a top dancer. or even just, happy with your placements at a FESH is invaluable and so important, but it does not exist outside of dance class. No amount of at-home practice is going to make up for what you get in a class. And that can be via a Zoom class or an in-person class. The knowledge you're getting from your teacher is like number one. And that's really important. So I think that's so, so important. Now, I feel like we've covered so much great stuff here. What would you say are like your last set of like helpful hints and tips for some good things about practicing? I know like the breaking down, like you said, break it down and then break it down again and again and again, and then go back and incorporate that into the step. I think that's an awesome tip. I think a lot of times people are like, I need to work on my twisty ankles, and they get the twisty ankles, but they never go back into the step where they need to do the twisty ankle. So then they know how to do it. It just doesn't get into the step. So I think that's a really great hint. Is there anything else that you can maybe offer?
I think we covered a majority of it, but I have to remind all of our dancers that, especially in a year like this, it's so important to stay positive and stay confident. And if you can come up with anything from a gratitude journal where you write down like 5 things you're thankful for or 5 things you're proud of achieving that day, I think it will take you a long way in everything, not just dancing, school, or friends, or whatever other activities you're in. It's so important to start here, because if it doesn't work here, it won't work anywhere else.
Yeah.
And feel free and safe to go to your parents and your teacher if you need that help to take those steps to stay positive and confident.
Kelly, that is excellent advice. Well, guys, I don't think that there's anything else I could say. I know that if I was dancing right now, I would be sitting listening to Kelly's words on the edge of my seat. This was excellent advice for all of our dancers in USA IDA. And also, please feel free. Yeah, share it with your friends. Maybe they're not in our branch, and this would be helpful to them, because it's very important for dancers to know that a positive attitude, a positive outlook, a supportive set of teachers, parents working all together is everything that you need, in addition to a good work ethic and a good plan. I think that's really important. What we keep kind of trying to say is like, you need to come up with the plan that's going to work for you. Like, not every recipe is going to work for you. So find one that works and stick to your plan, and then adjust your plan as you continue reaching your goals. And don't forget, because there's so many opportunities at just the FESH now in USA IDA and in Kogel, there are lots of different goals. So like, if you are brand new to opens and you were like, oh, well, I'm here now, what's my next goal? Well, your next goal is to medal in one of your solo rounds, or to, get, an overall placement, or, whatever it may be. So I think there's a constant way to keep moving and keep growing as a dancer. And I think that's really the most important thing, is never stop believing. Believe in yourself, believe in what you can achieve, believe in your goal, and go and get them. Go out there and make your dream come true. All right. Well, Kelly, this was awesome. Thank you so much for all of your advice and all of your time. And please say hi to your sisters and parents.
I will. And good luck, everyone, and get practicing.
Yes, everybody. Practice, practice, practice. But remember, practice doesn't make perfect. It makes better.
Yes.
And that's really important.
Very true.
Well, guys, thank you so much. Again, I'm Colleen Quigley-Carey with the USA IDA Coffee Talk. And until next time, have a great day. Bye.